first rule in grip sport is you tell everyone about grip sport.
Crushing, pinch grip, thick bar, wrists.
If the best guy in the world can't lift 100 pounds on it, I don't give a shit about it.
Welcome back to another episode of the Grip Show. This past weekend, we just had the North American Grip Sport Championships, hosted by Eric Roussain up in Canada. And we had done kind of a little bit of a preview episode about that, kind of breaking down the events. And now that the competition's over, with me, I have Sarah Chappelow, who won the women's overall, and obviously winning the overall, won her weight class as well. So welcome to the show, Sarah.
Hey, Zach. Thank you. It's good to see you again.
Yep. So, like I said, this is a real big competition because it hadn't been hosted in a while. And, you're kind of bringing the best of North America, together and kind of seeing how everything kind of shapes up. How did you feel going into the competition with your training?
I felt really good about all my training. So I've been doing grip for 5 years and was on my own for pretty much all that time as far as programming. But I hired a coach this past spring. So I've been working with Jalen Worley, W Grip, for coaching. So he did all my programming, getting me ready to compete there in Ottawa. So I didn't have to worry about anything. It was all planned out for me, just followed the plan. And it ended up working really well for me. So I was really happy with that.
Okay. So with all the programming going pretty well and all that kind of being taken care of, was there any event that you kind of felt like you weren't going to do very well at? Or did you feel like this lineup of events was pretty good for you?
I was more confident with some of them than others. I think the double shallow inch pinch was the one I felt least confident about going into it, just because in training, I was better at it some days than others, so I wasn't really exactly sure what to expect on competition day. But it ended up, I think, what did I get on that? I got 84.88 pounds, so 38.5 kilograms on that one. So ended up doing better at the contest than in training. So I thought I was happy with that.
Okay. And with the first event being the Silver Bullet, I know we had spoke a little bit before this that you have in competition, you have used the number 3 gripper and got some times on the board with that in the past. And for the Grip Sport International, this was a kind of a new set of grippers from Canon Powerworks that were, so for tracking purposes, they were going to kind of have everything standardized.
Right.
And for this competition, you did a Captain's of Crush 2.5 for 11 seconds or something close to that, right? How did you feel with that? Considering that you said you had done other number 3s, but you don't necessarily know what they were rated maybe back then either. It might have been an easier grip. You never know. So,
right.
How do you feel about that?
So I had really wanted to get some time in the 3.5 at this contest. That was really a big goal for me was to do that. It just didn't happen. I went out there, first attempt, I grabbed the 3.5, couldn't get that close. So immediately went down to the 3 and just didn't have enough power to get that around the bullet. So ended up with some time on the 2.5. We did get 2 attempts for that. So my second attempt, I tried to get some time on the number 3 and just couldn't. So, there's always those what ifs of what if I had started with the 3 instead, instead of going for the 3.5, if I had gone for the 3, would I have gotten some time on it? I'll never know, but I don't have any regrets at all about how I tried going for the 3.5. So, that would have been really cool if I had gotten it. So, no regrets. It's fine.
Well, and with them kind of having like that kind of, the fact that it's going to be tracked from now on and it is like a standardized thing, that's going to be coming up, more. So there's going to be more opportunities for that. So yeah, I wouldn't even stress on that. And then if we could kind of just go down the line, they say we don't have to spend a ton of time on it. You can kind of point out any highlights, but I'm kind of rounding these numbers. So if I if I short you by like a half pound or something, don't freak out on me. Um,
Yeah.
but the 2 3/8 wrist wrench, you lifted 92
Yep.
pounds.
Yep.
The Napalm Nightmare 3-inch pinch blocks, 184 pounds.
Yep.
Um, Little Bighorn, 179 pounds. And
Yep.
then we already mentioned the shallow double inch bench at 84 pounds. And then it was was it 2 3/8 on the Napalm Nightmare for the rolling handles
Yeah.
as well? It
Yeah.
was
Two,
2 3/8.
3/8.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you landed 304 on that, which is a really good pull as well. So these are all pretty like I said, just for me on the outside looking in, these all look like pretty high numbers and pretty high lifts. Were most of these PRs, or did you feel pretty good about how most of those stacked up? Because like I said, on paper, just for me, like looking in, these are all pretty serious numbers.
Yeah. So for the 2 and 3 inch Napalm's Nightmare, I really had wanted to get over 300 pounds in competition. I had gone for it back in March at the Rolling Hills Grip Challenge and, just dropped it at the top there. So didn't quite get it there. So I really wanted to get it here in Ottawa. So I was really happy to get the 304 on that. Wrist wrench, I did far better than I was hoping for. The 3-inch Napalm's Nightmare blocks, that was kind of a reach for me, but I was glad I got the 184. That was slightly more than what I had done in training. So, and Little Bighorn, my previous record on that I think was 172 pounds.
Mhm.
So, and in training I had done 175. So I was really happy to get the 179.
Yeah, it can always be tough judging the friction lifts. Whereas if it's like thick bar and
Yeah.
stuff like that, that's from your home training or your home gyms or wherever you're training at. There's not as much variance in like a thick bar lift or certain things. It kind of is what it is. But when you talk about like a Little Bighorn, the
Mhm.
texture, what the room is like, the weather, a lot can change. So the fact that you were able to kind of put up a number that was higher than anything you had been doing on your own setup is a
Yeah.
good thing, because you never know what you're walking into sometimes at a competition. People are, brushing chalk off, putting too much on, just, it's slippery, or it's a newer, Little Bighorn. You just never know what you're getting into. So to be able to deliver a lift like that and kind of outdo your training numbers, um, at least that's how I feel. Like anytime I'm out doing a like friction based lifts, which usually is like your vertical lifts and your pinch for the most part.
Mhm.
Um, Anything that has to do with that friction, if I can outdo what I've done in training, because on training, like I said, it's just typically me or a few others, and it's like everything's kind of set up perfect most of the time, or you're not having it, get messed with as much as a competition where there's 40 people at it, constantly rotating through, taking warm ups and whatever else. So, um, like I said, I'm probably like just beating a dead horse, kind of talking about this and whatever. But yeah, that's always just an awesome thing to do in competition, because a lot of times friction lifts can kind of underperform unless you just walk into a setting where like, oh, this thing feels 2 times grippier than the thing I have at home, which can happen too. But yeah, so um, okay, so that kind of covers most of the events and kind of what numbers you hit. And then for the women's division, there was a 30 item medley. And I know Eric really went all out with the medley, so many different things. I caught some of the live streams. I was seeing all the different stuff. I don't know. There's like some giant shackle. I could go through a name. There's like inch dumbbells. There's like crimp grips and like deadlift, like a Jefferson deadlift using these hooks and everything. So like, he went all out with a lot of crazy stuff.
Mhm.
So how did you feel about the medley? And I guess kind of just give us a breakdown how that went.
Yeah. So I had actually tweaked my arm on my last Little Bighorn pull. So I was pretty cautious going into the medley. So I really just did everything left-handed, and just did enough to get as many points as I needed for the overall win. Um, but it was medleys are my favorite thing in contests. They're just a blast to do. And there were so many different things that I had never tried before. So like the rolling thumber from Nemesis scripts, that was one of the implements. So that was just really fun to pick up and try. Yeah, so many fun different things.
Did you tear a deck of cards?
No, the women had phone books to tear.
Oh, okay. Phone book.
Yeah.
How did that go?
I didn't try the
Didn't
tear,
mess
but
with it? Okay.
it was pretty
Yeah.
fun watching the others do it.
Okay.
And a few of them got it too, so that was a lot of fun. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was fun to watch.
That's always interesting too, because those are kind of like throwback items that, like, I mean, phone books just aren't around like that really anymore. But like the tearing cards or bending steel or anything like that, like tearing a phone book, that's kind of stuff that you would see maybe in the earlier days of grip sport, that sometimes, unless it's a medley, you're not really going to see that event kind of pop back up. But it is cool when it is thrown in the mix of a medley, because it's something a little bit different. Most people aren't really training that. Some people are, if you're one of those people that is tearing cards all the time or weekly, maybe, but for the most part, a lot of us that lift aren't really, tearing or bending a lot of stuff. So sometimes that can kind of be an interesting thing to, I don't know, try to figure out in the medley if you haven't done it.
Mhm.
So pretty much, I know we talked about this being like the first time the silver bullet was tracked. So with you winning that or having the highest placement in the women's division for that, that would put you at the top of the list. And then I want to say most of these other lifts that you did, considering that you were the top, but other lifts have been contested in the past. So these other numbers that you put up that have bumped you at the top of the list, those are essentially Grip Sport International or GSI records that you now currently hold. And I know you already have some other
Yeah.
ones as well. Is there any one of these lifts that, I don't say like means the most to you, but is there any one of these lifts that you think is kind of, I don't know, better than the others? I mean, they're all, somewhat kind of records, but is there one where you're like, but that one's like a little bit more important than the others, or, I don't know. Any thoughts on
Yeah,
that?
yeah, I know what you mean there. So I didn't really realize how big my wrist wrench lift was until I saw my number against other people's numbers.
Yeah.
So that's really cool to see, on paper, see it written down. That and the 2 3/8 Napalm's Nightmare, the 304 there. I think that's quite a bit more than the next person. So that's, yeah.
Yeah, no, the
Proud of those.
wrist wrench is really impressive, because a lot of times people will use, if they don't have an inch dumbbell, they will try to use anything they can. How much do I have to lift on a one blue fat grip for a single arm deadlift? Or, on a loadable dumbbell, there's all kinds of things like, well, how much on this do I have to do to be able to do this feat? And one
Right.
of the common numbers that's always been thrown around for a 2 3/8 inch diameter wrist wrench is that, like, oh, if you can kind of hit about 100 pounds, you're in that inch dumbbell territory. So being at
Yeah.
92 in a competition, that's not too far off. This is me just personally asking this. I know this doesn't have to do with the competition, but is that probably on your future list at some point, kind of eyeing an inch dumbbell lift?
Yeah, it is. I actually just bought one. So I'll be training for that.
Okay.
inch
Did you
dumbbell.
get one of the new Slater bells?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, those look cool. So yeah,
Yeah.
I need to get one, but I have too many bells and low funds. So it might be a minute. But yeah, and I also have like too many already. So but no, those look cool. If I was gonna get another inch dumbbell, yeah, I would probably hit up Steve Slater and go through him to get one of those, because I think they got like a newer mold or something, so it has like the lettering on it and stuff, and it
Yeah.
looks cooler than the one I got a few years ago, where that stuff was probably worn down and it's just a plain dumbbell. So yeah, I just figured I'd bring that up, because that is kind of in that territory, and that would be really cool to see in the future. Now, just kind of I guess recapping the whole thing. it was a 2-day competition, a lot of lifters, a lot of stuff going on. What was the overall, and this is your opinion, what was like the overall atmosphere of the competition and how it ran? What's your kind of take on that? Because I mean, sometimes you go to some competitions, it's like a little more lax. Other times it's like super intense. What was kind of your experience as far as what the energy in the room was like?
Yeah, everyone had a great time there. Everyone, well, first of all, Eric did a phenomenal job organizing the contest. I can't even imagine the amount of work that went into it, but
Yeah.
everything was just organized so well for us. I mean, he thought of every detail on how to keep things running. So that made things easy for the lifters just to show up and let us do our thing. But everyone was in really good spirits, happy to see each other. They were really long days, at least 8 hours each day. So these were really long days, but everyone just did a great job hanging in there and, just cheering each other on, supporting each other. Really good spirits. So it was one of my, favorite contests I've ever done. So good
Okay,
times.
now that's always a
Good
good
times
thing.
and great people.
Um, so really, like I said, that kind of wraps up this competition, but obviously you're going to be doing more here in the future. What is kind of the next thing that you're kind of eyeing for competition or competition wise?
Yeah. So arm lifting super series is coming up this summer. So June and then August. And I'm actually, for my August lifts, I'm actually going to be going out to Boise to lift out there. So Amy Waddles is hosting out there. So I'll be lifting with Amy and Tammy, and Jen Timbenham's coming out there. So a bunch of us girls are just going to have a great time lifting out there.
That might help the numbers
So that should
too.
be a lot. Yeah, I think it will.
I'm just saying,
I
getting
think it will
everybody in the
definitely
same
help
room,
finding each
you
other.
because
Yeah,
sometimes when you do those remote venues, you're kind of, you don't really have a measuring stick because you don't know what other people are lifting. But if you know that you have, three
right.
or four of the, strongest lifters kind of in your classes, kind of doing their thing all in the same room, that might kind of drive some of the numbers up as well. So that might be a good thing that all you guys are going to kind of be in the same place, because you're not going to
Yeah,
have to, like, I don't know, like I said, you don't have a reference point when you're just by yourself. You're like, yeah, I think that was good. We'll see. And then you're like, oh man, I probably could have done 5 more pounds if I knew that, they were going to do
yeah,
that. I would have jumped different. So I think that'll, hopefully that should work out to everybody's advantage. Um,
yeah.
so yeah, Super
Should be fun.
Series, and
Yeah. And then
that's
in
it.
October,
Yeah.
there's the arm lifting world championship at the Olympia in King
Is
Kong.
it in October this year?
It's in October, middle of October. Yep.
Okay. And that's where's that at? Sorry, I'm like drawing a blank. I'm used
It's
to that being like in December or something almost, or November. But yeah, so it's gonna be in October.
yeah,
I know King Kong is always like the
yeah,
last weekend of October, but and
yeah.
is that like Vegas or is that in Florida?
It's in
Sorry.
Vegas.
Okay, it's in Vegas. Okay, so yeah, maybe
Yeah,
they switched the time frame or something a little bit. Um,
yeah,
yeah, well, no, we wish you the best of luck in those upcoming competitions and everything like that. And yeah, I don't know, is there anything else that you'd like to add about the competition or future competitions or anything else? Like I said, just kind of as a closing statement.
um, just that it was really great to see all the people there, and good luck to everyone in your training for your next contest.
All right, and yeah, so really that, like I said, we'll go ahead and we can kind of just wrap it up. But just want to, thank you again for coming on the show and taking the time. And yeah, hopefully we just get to see you keep putting up these amazing numbers. And I know that I know that Tammy wasn't too far off on some things, but there still is a little bit of a gap there. But hopefully with Tammy and Amy and some of these other lifters and other lifters that are just emerging that we don't know about, hopefully we can get some people to start kind of pushing you a little bit more. I'm not saying that they're not, but it would be interesting to kind of see you, um, like what we talked about with the Super Series, kind of having everybody in the same room. It'll be interesting to kind of see if you get a couple of, some other women or the current women kind of get just a little bit stronger and start pushing some of those lifts just to kind of see what everybody's really capable of, because there's some super strong women out there. I just still feel like for the most part, there's that little bit of a gap, and you're still really kind of sitting on top. And, but I don't think that you've fully reached your, like your max potential. Like there's so much room to still kind of like keep going with all this stuff. And,
Yep.
yeah, just want to see, sorry, just want to see some good battles in the future and kind of see where the women's numbers can end up, because I really think that with every competition that goes by,
Mhm.
new records get set. That becomes the benchmark that everybody goes for, and then they surpass that, and it just keeps going. There's numbers that are getting put up this year that 3 years ago people wouldn't even think were possible. Possible. They think you were lying if you said you lifted this stuff 3 years ago. So, yeah, I just want to keep seeing the women's side of things evolve and see you kind of get pushed, and then just kind of see where that'll end up. Because, like I said, it's been pretty awesome to watch so far, but I think there's a lot more room for it to kind of grow, and a lot more heights that all you guys are going to reach. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. So, yeah, thanks again. Sorry if I was a little long winded on that, but yeah, just wanted to kind of summarize and bring everything together for a big performance. And like I said, just congrats again.
Thanks, Zach. Much appreciated.